Welcome, everyone, to the T-Rap Show with your host, Trapper Goldsmith, where we showcase elite athletes and sport individuals with their inspiring stories and rise to glory in their pursuit of everlasting greatness. Our guest today, he's like a cross between a Tony Robbins and an Eric Thomas. The mental game is his mastery, and you're going to want to watch this one back, because he's bringing all the nuggets to implement in your sport and your business from a mental standpoint. ZAK KRYSAK came up playing baseball at an elite level. He's coached high-level AAA baseball. Now he's the owner of the Grind Performance, a company helping athletes develop their mindset so they reach their highest potential and performance in their sport. So he's going to share today his approach to coaching the mental game, why it's almost impossible to play professional in sport without some kind of mental coaching work and program, and how you really tap into the part of your game you've never even thought about. So ZAK, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here, Trapper.
Awesome, man. Well, why don't we just kind of start, tell us a little bit about your story coming up playing baseball. Were you a gifted player? Was it something you had to work at?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So growing up, I was a multi-sport athlete, kind of competing across a wide variety of sports, from baseball, football, hockey, track and field, golf, basketball. We kind of did it all. So I feel like, that gave me the athletic ability to, compete at those higher levels that kind of transferred between each sport. But yeah, I'd eventually go on to play college baseball, take my passion for that to the next level. And yeah, growing up, I was always a high competitive athlete. I wouldn't call myself the most talented athlete on the field or on the ice court, whatever it may be. But I was always someone who had that work ethic, wanted to be better, wanted to put in the work, and become my best. So yeah, eventually would go on to compete as a college baseball player. And that's where I really began to realize just how tough that student athlete lifestyle is, starting to face a lot more of those challenges faced, and realizing, truly what separated elite athletes from the average. So yeah, growing up, again, competing as a multiple sport athlete kind of gave me the insight and abilities to, transfer that over to baseball, compete at that high level. But that was where, I really started to struggle myself personally. Dealing with things such as mental health issues. That's something that's so prevalent in the sports world nowadays. But I wasn't someone who really understood, things such as anxiety and depression. I heard other athletes, some other friends, kind of talking about going through it, but I wasn't someone who really experienced that in high school. I was someone who could kind of get away studying the night before, getting 80s, 90s, whatever it may be. Yeah. But when you get to that university level, you can't study the night before, right? It's just that workload increases, the class load increases, trying to manage both your athletic schedule, the academic schedule, try to just have balance in life is so difficult for so many athletes. And, that was when I started to kind of struggle, just trying to, manage everything. Again, time management, I didn't have those skills at all. So getting to that college level, trying to manage the hectic class load, right? You show up to classes, your professors don't really care if you show up or not. It's all on you. So you got to have that accountability to put in the work, right? Get it done, show up. And then, yeah,
Totally.
Get into your practices and games. And at least for us, it was year round. Like we had no days off. We were practicing 5 days a week. You had games, doubleheaders on weekends. You're traveling some days, Thursdays, Fridays. So those are sometimes 15, 16-hour road trips to the States or across North America. So yeah, it was a challenge and just a lot to kind of manage, especially as a young adult, right? Someone who's got to take on the responsibility now, be able to manage everything. Come home, just make yourself a good meal, especially as a college student can be difficult. Trying to manage everything, stay on top of things can be so difficult. So yeah, in my kind of first years of college, I struggled as an athlete, would eventually develop, bad anxiety and would lead to depression as well. So I remember days I just wake up and just didn't want to do anything, right? I just wanted to lay in bed all day, didn't want to go to class, didn't want to go to the field. But of course, didn't care how I felt. I'd always show up, always put in the work. But it was really challenging to, just stay positive, stay motivated, and stay consistent throughout that process. As right, there's something new every day. And that's just life in itself. But trying to manage, again, all those pressures. I was competing against other athletes. So, example, in baseball, I was a catcher, and I was trying to compete for that starting spot, right? So you're always competing against other people. You're trying to stay on top of things with your grades, because if you don't perform in your academics, you don't play. So it just built up, right? And then I never had the skills or strategies to handle that, because I never focused on my mental game at all. It was just the physical side. And I feel like that's what most athletes is, get bigger, faster, stronger, whatever it may be, put in the time on the field. But there was no work on the mental side of things. And that's where I really struggled. And that's where I realized most athletes struggled, especially at those higher levels. And the higher levels you go up, right? Just the pressures increase, the standards increase. And there's no really skills or development to manage that and kind of help navigate that process. So yeah, I guess I competed up until the COVID year, that kind of shut everything down. And then, yeah, I just had a lot of time to think. And I remember, I think it was the summer of 2022, I ended up getting a phone call. I remember very vividly. I was on the golf course one day, and I ended up getting a call from one of my good buddies, who mentioned that my other buddy growing up, he was like a brother to me, ended up taking his own life. And he was a high competitive athlete as well, high competitive football player. And he was way more talented than me, to say the least. And that kind of just really shocked me. Like time just stood still in the moment. And I didn't want to believe it. I couldn't believe that it was real. And then, after, of course, talking with his family, understanding what really happened, he was an athlete that struggled as well, with mental health issues, and just, again, trying to deal with all the pressures and challenges at those higher levels that no one really talks about. And it's so tough, especially for young males, to talk about it. Females, of course, as well, everyone in that athletic world, but guys are supposed to be tough, right? You can't be weak. There's so many other words you could say for it, but it was a challenge to open up to anyone, right? Because if you talked about your weak, your feelings, whatever it may be, for most guys, right, especially meatheads at a young age, right, teenagers, young adults, it's tough, right, to open up and talk about that stuff. So, when I kind of went through that, when all of that happened, I started opening up more to my friends about what I was going through, what I was struggling with, because I could relate to him. And I thought that could have been me, or that might have been me at some point as well. So, just especially during that COVID year, realizing how many people were isolated as well, right? It was so bad for mental health. It was worse than, can argue about this, but then the coronavirus. Like, at one point, more people were taking their own lives every month than the coronavirus was killing people. So, yeah, right, just in that perspective, that kind of shifted everything for me. And I really wanted to create something to help other athletes who are in my position, and help other athletes like my good buddy growing up, to be able to navigate and manage that student athlete lifestyle, manage all the challenges that kind of come with it, and be able to develop effective habits, skills, and strategies that not only help them within their sports, but within their academics and life itself along the way. So yeah, that's kind of my journey, what led me to creating the Grind Performance today. And yeah, passionate to be able to help other athletes around the world reach that next level of their competition, be able to set themselves apart from the competition, and be able to just really address the mental health space in the athletic world.
So is that pretty common across the collegiate, level, that, you have that workload that I guess technically a professional athlete doesn't have, with the schoolwork and studying and exams, but you're so focused on the physical development and playing and practice that there isn't a lot of resources and commitment from the collegiate level for the mental side of the game?
Yeah, that's a good question. So that's the thing, is like, I noticed, of course, if you're at like the higher level schools, okay, the Div 1 schools, they probably have a mental performance coach nowadays. But you look back, this stuff has changed so much in the last couple of years, right? The sports world is always changing. But yeah, you know what? The mental side was never focused on, and it's only become more prevalent in the last couple of years because of things, you hear about athletes taking their own lives, right? Struggling with this, athletes missing games because of their mental health. And it's so real. But most people, unless you compete at that level, really don't understand, what athletes go through. And I feel like there's that big stigma to it, because athletes, of course, like say jocks for in high school, for example, right? They're supposed to be the popular ones, or right, everything's good for them, right? They're living their best lives, just like the quarterback on the team, let's say. But in reality, it's a lot more challenging than people think, especially when you want to go to those higher levels, right? Like high school is the bare minimum. You get to the college level now, right? Like I said, everything just increases. That pressure increases, standards, workload increases, and most young adults, teenagers have no skills to manage that. Like get into the
Mm.
real world, be able to manage the pain, the failure, the adversity that right everyone's ultimately going to be faced with. And especially in the sports world, right up until the last couple of years, it's all just been the physical side of things, right? Like I said before, get bigger, get stronger, get faster. But here's the thing is it doesn't matter how talented you are, how fast, strong, whatever it may be, is if you can't handle those pressures at the higher level, right? You can't manage the failure, the adversity, the negativity. It doesn't matter how good you are, you're ultimately going to struggle at the next level, right? Because you're either going to face things such as burnout, just
Mm-hmm.
loss of motivation. And you see it, every year, athletes quitting because of things such as just a bad experience with a coach, right? It can be one simple thing as that throws everyone off the tracks, really wrecks things for them, and just having that mental capability would help so much more. Again, trying to manage all this stuff, because we all want to perform at our highest potential. We all want to succeed, whether again it's in our sports studies or life itself. But along the way, we're going to face challenges, and that's inevitable. So, what skills and strategies do we have to manage that? And that's what I realized, most, let's just say the education that most people get is they don't teach you any of that stuff. It's
Right.
right, the basic classes,
Absolutely.
um,
Yeah.
right, and just no information to really help you with real life skills. And that was a big thing I wanted to create and implement with my coaching at the Grand Performance, is helping athletes develop life skills that'll benefit them not just now, as an athlete, hopefully they can reach
Mm-hmm.
their highest potential. I get to the professional levels one day, but let's say, they end up taking a different path and they're going down a different career. They can still utilize these skills and strategies to succeed, reach their highest potential, and get the results they want over the long term.
Yeah. Yeah. I've always said that, like, you can learn the skills of a sport, which is great, but it's really the fundamentals that you learn along the way, the habits, the discipline, and the mental side of being competitive that carries through the rest of your life. So let me ask you this, Zach, is building like working on the mental game, it's not just about like building better focus and visualization, but is it also building mental toughness?
Oh, 100%. That's the one thing, I love about the mental side of the game and love coaching it and teaching it, is that it can apply to so many different aspects of life in general. But I like to think about your mental game as the foundation for everything else. Because again, it doesn't matter how physically talented you are, if you don't have those skills to manage the adversity, the challenges, those failures, you're never going to reach that next level. So our mindset is the foundation. So at the Grand Performance, we have 12 pillars of elite performance that we focus on, diving into everything from, that mental toughness. So of course, learning, understanding our mind, how we can, train it to work for us instead of against us, developing those time management skills, how to balance your self-talk, right? There's so many different things related to the mental side. But yeah, with our clients and athletes at the Grand Performance, I try to make it as specific as possible to each athlete, because everyone's different in their own sense, right? So it just depends where you're at, right? Everyone's struggling with something. Everyone can work on something,
Right. 100%.
but just trying to figure out, okay, here's your strengths, here's your weaknesses. What can we adapt? What can we change? What can we do for you, and help you reach that higher level of your potential, whatever that may be, I guess, to yourself.
So very similar to your physical game then, if your weakness is running bases or your weakness is infield grounders, like you're gonna focus on that and try and develop that weakness up to a strength.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Of course, we have our strengths, keep working on that, keep building that, stay consistent with those things. But, find out your weakness. Right. And I feel like, especially if we want to be able to grow, we got to be able to step outside of our comfort zone. Right. And this is the challenge for so many people, whether it be
Mm.
integrating habits, changing the way you think about things, taking a new approach to things, is most people are so difficult to step outside that comfort zone because it's such a big change.
Yeah.
Right. And if we go into some of the, neurological stuff, just understanding the way our brain works, is we have our primal brain, which essentially keeps us or ensures our survival, right? That's the brain that's been developed over millions of years since we were primates, and then now into our rational brain, the higher reasoning brain, right? Higher consciousness, wanting to expand and grow. So understanding that is our brain is constantly clashing against each other like this. And that's why it's so challenging for people to get the results they want, is because their own brain is working against them.
Right.
And this is the way, we've been programmed, we've been wired, but being able to rewire our brain, learn the skill strategies, which that's the thing about the mental game is it's not going to happen overnight. Right. And that's one thing you got to accept when you're training this side of things is, your habits, your routines, your mindset, your beliefs don't just change overnight. But being able to stay consistent with it, taking the necessary action each day, putting in the work. If you can create that foundation, then everything else becomes easy. You got to put in the hard work now. And then along the way, those challenges, again, any storm you face, if you have that purpose and intention with what you do, if you have a plan of action, it becomes a lot easier to manage that stuff. You don't get overwhelmed. There's less stress, and then you limit those mental health issues over the long run as well.
So let me ask you this. Do you think a player can reach a professional level in any sport without having some type of focus on the mental side? Like if I just focus on practice, working hard on the field, drills, can I make it to a professional level?
No, that's a really good question. And I think about it as just different pieces to the puzzle, right? So that's the thing is you could be a really, really talented athlete and of course probably make it far. But here's the thing is when you get to say that professional level one day is you're going to be facing extreme stress. Like when you're playing those games, they're so fast, whether it's in the NHL, MLB, even, NFL, golf, even, right? Things speed up whether you realize it or not. And if you can't slow down, you can't control the things. And just another thing too is like you go to an opposing team's arena or stadium and everyone's booing you. Like, how do you think that's going to trigger you, or how are you going to react mentally? Right. So it's the little things. And I realize there's so many more factors than just the physical side of things. So yes, you can go far being a talented athlete, but, from my own experience, talking with many other high level athletes across all sports, I feel like you really got to have that mental game. And this is what everyone else says at the higher levels. You listen to things from Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, Tom Brady, Sidney Crosby, Tiger Woods. And they say the one thing that separates all elite performers is that mental game. Mm-hmm. All right. So I truly feel like that's the thing is like you could be talented as an athlete and go far, but you're not really going to separate yourself from everyone else. Because the thing is, especially at the collegiate level, is everyone can compete physically. If you can't, you're probably not going to be there, right? So that talent level, it's going to get you in the door, but it's not going to help you set yourself apart from anyone, right? You're not going to become an elite performer just being physically skilled. You got to have that mental ability. You got to have those skills to weather, right, those negative situations, because it's not always going to be positive. You're going to get into a slump, right? You're dealing with all those pressures, the negativity, and just, life in general. That's another side of sports that people really don't see is we're all going through something, right? Whether you see it or not, breakups, just relationships trying to deal with, family issues. There's so many different things that affect your performance and your mental ability. So that's another thing too, is like, I remember games competing at the college level where I'd have a big exam or final the next day. And all I could think about was that final or exam. And then that's taking my focus and awareness away from the game. So I can't perform at my highest potential in the game. Yeah. So just things like that. I feel like that mental side is the foundation for success. That's what's going to separate you apart from everyone else and allow you to reach that higher potential and break through your own limits as well.
So you went from sport into entrepreneurship, starting the Grind Performance, which we'll put a link in the chat of the website to get to your program. But how did that come about? Like, why wasn't it just like, I need to get my mental game better? What really piqued like your interest to start your own company and be like, you know what? I don't want to just change myself. I want to change and help as many athletes as I can. Where did that come from?
Yeah, I think, where it all kind of started, like I said, was during that COVID year. So again, I was going through my own stuff at the time. Everyone being isolated and just being in their own head, right? You had all the time in the world to kind of think, locked up in your own house. So yeah, it was kind of just like an existential point in my life. I feel like we all have them right at some point in our life, but figuring out, all right, what do I want to do with my life? Do I want to continue to play college baseball? I still could have gone back down to play wherever, or, start a new path in my life. And I was taking business in school at the time. So I was always passionate about that, but never really had an idea. I always wanted to start my own business, but never really had the picture or plan to really do it. But it was a combination of two things that really changed the course of my life, I guess you could say. And the one thing was, my buddy taking his own life. That was something that really hit me.
Yeah.
And just, realizing other athletes kind of in that same situation, again, opening up about myself and talking with other athletes, I started understanding that I wasn't the only one struggling with this stuff. It was almost everyone I talked to, all my friends, athletes, were struggling in one way or another, whether it be now or in their past. I just realized there wasn't really any solutions or resources to help on the mental side of things.
Right.
So on the other side of things, going to the gym, I ended up meeting, he's been my first mentor and a good buddy of mine to this point. He kind of pushed me in the direction to kind of start the business and everything. So we just started talking about everything, and he's a brilliant coach himself. He helps, businesses scale to the multi-millions each year. But anyways, he would just ask me questions, like, what do you want to do with your life? Like, are you passionate about school right now? What do you want to do? Where do you see yourself, kind of thing? Just asking me those hard-hitting questions. So that made me think a lot, just about the situation I was in, what I want to do with my life. And yeah, I kind of mentioned to them, I want to start my own business. And from there, it was kind of just figuring out, okay, the next question was, who can we help? Right. So I thought, all right, I can help athletes. I was an athlete myself, not too far out of the shoes of others. And I kind of thought, okay, I'm a big gym person myself, big on the athletic side of things, physical literacy, health, and all that. And I thought, okay, I could make, workout plans, meal plans like most people do. But I realized that market was already so saturated in its own sense. So I thought, okay, how can I flip it on its head and do something an opposite? So that's where the mental side kind of came, and realizing, all right, this is something that I really struggled with. Here are the skills that I learned when I competed, in my last couple of years of college. And I feel like I could help others with this. So, also adding in my experience as a coach. And I've been a coach since 16 years of age, mainly within the baseball world, competing, football as well, been a hockey coach, having different realms there. But, combining those two things, where my first mentor was able to push me, kind of help me implement everything, start it, create it, and then integrate my coaching, my knowledge, my experience as an athlete to help others who are in my position. And that was a big thing in creating the Grind Performances. I wanted to create an online platform and community where athletes could have 24/7 support anywhere they are in the world, rather than, just talking to a coach once in a while. And that's another big thing too with athletes, is getting them to open up and really talk about this stuff, right? It's tough to talk about what we're struggling about. But with my coaching and at the Grind Performance, I really want to focus on the things that, limit us, in a sense, like negativity, okay, and right, just the challenges we face, and realizing if we can learn a way to use that as an advantage and be able to utilize that to gain some sort of edge, that's where I feel like you'll set yourself apart. Because most people, when it comes to that negativity, right, just all those challenges, the failures, they want to run away from it. And they don't know how to face it. They don't know how to deal with it, right? And then they get overwhelmed by it. The stresses build, and that's where everything else kind of tumbles down. So being able to understand, all right, you're going to be faced with these pain and challenges. How can we use that to our advantage, right? How can I gain control of this situation? How can I stay in control? How can I use this to get the results I want? And then just adding in, I'm very passionate about learning how you can increase your performance and potential in general, right? Because if you can reach a higher potential and performance, that may mean, all right, you're going to the pros someday. If you put in enough work, you can achieve your greatest dreams there. You could win that championship or MVP trophy. You can make $1 million if that's a goal of yours, right? There's just so many different things. If you learn how to maximize your performance, your potential, your output, your efficiency, all this stuff, that's when you can get better results. That's where you can truly succeed and achieve whatever you want in this world. Again, whether it's in the sports world or just life in itself. So that's how, everything kind of came together. And yeah, just taking it day by day and figuring things out as we go as well.
So that can only come through mastering the mental game, truly, like reaching your full potential. So you work with a wide array of age group athletes. What do you think for parents, listening in, what's a good age to start mental awareness, mental training, mental toughness for young athletes?
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. So I feel like, there's no right age or specific age to start. I feel like the sooner you start, the better. But one thing I like to implement and, work with, especially the younger athletes, is understanding, okay, building that muscle memory to start with. Okay. So in any sport is, first off, have fun. All right. We're here to have fun. And you see it, especially as you get to like those peewee ages, let's say like 10, 11, 12, where athletes are now, or teams are trying to compete year round. They're kind of in this academy format, or right. I remember yeah, it was Pee Wee. I think it was grade 6 at the time. I was playing for a citywide hockey team here. And of course, high level hockey team, right? Your higher expectations. But we'd have practices at like 6 in the morning before school. And this, again, like in elementary school. And I'd wake up every morning. I'm like, I don't want to go to practice. I hate this. Like, why are we doing this? This isn't fun. Of course, right? You got to put in the work to get to the next
As a
level.
parent, I'm glad those practices are over as well. We're not at the 6 a.m. practices anymore. We've moved up. We're like 10 and 11 now.
Yeah, exactly. Right. So that's the thing, is like, I tell parents is, allow your kid to just have fun, learn the physical side of things. Of course, that's what you develop first. But I've worked with athletes as young as 9, 10 years old, starting on the mental game. So that's the big key, is just understanding, right? Like the mental game, it comes with a lot more maturity and just awareness, self-awareness, understanding, right? And that comes with time, that comes with age, experience, and all that kind of stuff. So I feel like, especially starting high school, for sure, is when you should start the mental side of training. So like kind of grade 8, grade 9 for sure. If you have a desire to compete at that higher level, and then just learning skills, again, that can help in studies as well. That's why I love teaching this stuff and coaching other athletes, is not only helping them within their athletics, but knowing this stuff's going to help them within their studies. Let's take time management, for example, right? Most people struggle with time management, or one way or another. I would say most adults as well, kind of thing, right? Because life is so stressful. There's so many distractions, so many things we got to focus on. But if we can learn those skills and strategies to have that balance, stay consistent, stay calm, stay motivated throughout the process, it's going to make it a lot more easier, right? You're going to be more fulfilled. You're going to be a lot happier, less stress, right? Just so many benefits to it in the long run. But yeah, I would say kind of like that high school age range is when I find a lot of our athletes start, when I start working with them. Of course, worked with college athletes, athletes at the professional levels, but, start integrating that stuff at a younger age and just stressing the importance of it. And I feel like another thing too is being open to talk about this stuff, right? Being open to talk about our struggles. And that's another thing that, I was someone who didn't really want to talk about my struggles, especially with my parents. And my parents were always super supportive of me. Grateful for everything they've done for me, giving me the opportunities I've had. But when I struggled, I didn't want to talk about them or talk about that with them, right? And I feel like most young adults, teenagers, don't want to talk about that stuff because it's vulnerability, right? It shows that weakness. But if you don't talk about it, that's when everything builds up, right? This is where the mental health issues start. And this is where, people ended up taking their own lives. And it's so tough to understand. And right, you don't really realize it until it happens and it's too late. So, that's kind of the extreme side of things. But I feel like, high school, yeah, just start talking about this stuff, start implementing the mental training, because it's going to help your athletes in all aspects of life and be able to help them reach that next level of their competition. So if they have goals to play at the college level someday, the pro someday, the sooner they start working on that, the sooner they can get ahead of their competition, because 99% of athletes only focus on the physical side of things. Right. And if you want to be able to set yourself apart, here's how you can learn these strategies, these skills, get ahead of the competition, manage your emotions better, stay more calm, consistent, whatever it may be, just get the results you want over the long term.
So sport is progressive. We know that, and athletes are becoming younger and younger when they're hitting an elite level. So they're starting younger and younger. So now you have an athlete that's 18, 19 years old, and they've already been playing for over 15 years. and you talked a bit about it, like if you're playing at a city level or a regional state level, you have early practices, you're grinding at a very young age. Then you go to university, you're balancing the student athlete, which is one of the most stressful workloads on an athlete, I think. And then the pressure of playing in the pro ranks. How do you prevent burnout for athletes? What are some tangible, some strategies that you talk to about your athletes that you work with from preventing burnout?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And burnout's something that limits so many athletes every year. And
Mm-hmm.
can relate to it. We can all relate to it at one point. Things just build up, those stresses build up. I feel like the first thing with that is you got to have purpose, right? You got to have purpose and intention. So what I mean by purpose, I don't mean having everything figured out or your life figured out, but having a purpose is essentially your anchor. I like to think about it in this way. So, right, like if we're on a sailboat, we want to sail from New York to London. That's our end goal. Okay. Most people, they're going to start their journey, but then they're going to be faced with, storms along the way, right? Those adversities kind of thing. And most people, they end up either spiraling, they lose track of where they're headed. They lose motivation along the way because a lot of those challenges arise. And that's the thing is long-term success is a long-term process, right? It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen in the week, month, maybe even this year. So having that purpose allows you to have that anchor, I like to think, where any storm you face, you're able to manage it. All right. You know why you're persisting. So, mornings that I wake up, I don't feel like getting out of bed. I don't feel like doing anything. I always just think, okay, and my purpose personally is this exactly. My purpose is to help other athletes who are in my position achieve their highest potential and limit mental health issues across a range of everything. So that's my purpose. And so I always think, if I'm not getting out of bed this morning, I'm not putting in the work, then, someone else is, what's the word for it? They're not achieving their highest potential right now.
Mm-hmm.
They're struggling right now. And, I can do something about it. So that's just my purpose. That's what motivates me every single day, no matter how I feel. Because that's the thing is with emotions is they're always changing. And that's what people got to understand is
Right.
you're not always going to be motivated,
Yeah.
right? Motivation, I feel like most people focus too much on that, but it's the discipline that you need to integrate. All right. So having that discipline allows you to take the necessary action, whether you feel like it or not. And that's truly what separates those elite performers is they're able to show up, whether feeling down, anxious, stressed, whatever it may be, and they're able to still put in the work. And that's why they get so far ahead of their competition. But on the burnout side is, just having that balance. Balance is so, so key. So balance is different for everyone. And athletes I work with, again, it's all personal because some people can work at an extreme amount. Like they can put in a lot of work, they can work a lot of hours in the day and not burn out as much compared to some people, they may put in a couple hours, they feel stressed, anxious at the moment, and then they can't, take or do productive output and outwork. So in saying that, just having the balance, self-care is something is just sometimes you need days to just take a day off. Take a day off and do nothing. Don't think about anything. Don't go on your phone, right? Take a detox because especially in this day and age, there's so many distractions. There's so much negativity, right? You turn on your phone, you watch the news. It's something
True.
negative, right?
Yeah.
It's nothing or very little positive in the world to stay, again, motivated, positive, consistent throughout your process. So, having that purpose is integral, having that intention, so why are you doing the things you're doing? Why do you wake up in the morning? Why do you go to work? Right? Like ask yourself these deep hitting
Understanding that why.
questions. Exactly. When you figure out that deep why, the rest becomes easier. And it allows you to stay consistent along your process. So, again, just the balance. And again, that's different for everyone. But try to figure out a schedule that works for you. Right. For me personally, like working early in the morning, I'm more productive then. So then in the afternoon, I kind of taper off, kind of don't have to focus as much on the hard work and can just have meetings, stuff like that. So same thing, whether it be in school, your work, whatever it may be, but being able to, just have that purpose to always come back to, trying to think of, other specific strategies on that side of things. I feel like you got to be not necessarily passionate, Like, I feel like passion is a part of it because that's going to allow you to persist through things. But understand that, these elite athletes, they're not passionate about doing the tough things and the hard work. No one likes putting in hard work. No one likes waking up early and going to the gym and doing this and that. So you got to be able to have that balance of both sides of, all right, I'm passionate about this. I want to do this. I love what I get to do. I love waking up every day and putting in the work. And then being able to persist through those shitty moments, right? The challenges, those failures, the things you don't like. And I think there was, I forget who said it, but there was a quote: the thing that separates all elite performers and the most successful people in the world is one thing. And that's that they like to do what failures don't. So if you can learn to do what essentially you hate, love to do what you hate, it becomes a lot easier. And again, that's just a whole mindset shift. It's all mental, being able to persist through that. But yeah, and again, giving yourself a break sometimes. Like, I feel like, at least for athletes, we're all perfectionists in some ways. And I was definitely a perfectionist when I played. So, when I'd make a mistake or one error, I'd end up just start beating myself up, saying, okay, you're better than this. Come on. Like, and the crowd's looking at you. What do they think now? Right. And those just limit you. You're going to go down that negative loophole real quick. So being able to be your own best friend at the end of the day. So again, that's the mental side, that's developing the confidence piece there. But if you can support yourself when no one else is, that's what's going to allow you to go the distance. All right. Go through those shitty moments, those tough moments of life, go through the darkness. So you can emerge at the end of the light. And stay consistent along the way. And then that's another thing too, is just accepting that life isn't easy. Like, the whole process, what you want to achieve, greatness always demands sacrifice. So if you can learn to be comfortable with the uncomfortable and learn that, okay, pain, failure, and adversity is the key to success. Now, how can I tap into that? How can I use that?
Yeah.
Just example, like, I think about emotions. Okay, anger, let's take for example, is a very high energy emotion, right? When you're angry, you're pissed off, there's a lot of emotion coming from that. I often have the best workouts when I'm angry and frustrated. I'm a big rock and metal guy myself, but I'll put on my headphones, blast into my ear, and I'll lift heavy weights and have some of the greatest workouts. But that's my positive release, right? I don't lash out at others. I take that towards the gym. So that's how you can use emotions to your advantage, is learning how to channel them, tap into them, and use them to your advantage, instead of letting them control you, I guess.
So, yeah, that's really good. I want to kind of wrap up here and talk about, you have a young athlete, let's say, and they come to you with their parents, and their goal, their goal is to play professional sport, and that's the objective from both the athlete and the parent. What's your approach, knowing how difficult it is, the unlikely chance that they will make a professional level? How are you pushing them? How are you challenging them? And what's your approach to do the best you can in order to get them to a professional level?
Yeah. So, me as a coach, and again, as a former athlete myself, being in their shoes, it's my passion being able to help them. So I want to see other athletes succeed no matter what, right? Whether it be through my coaching, the knowledge I kind of talk about, or the resources I provide. I want to help you in whatever way that may be. And that's the thing is, it's all that kind of internal stuff. So what I want to be able to do is help you develop the skills, strategies, mindsets, habits, and routines, so you can eventually do everything on your own. All right. And that's like the greatest masters, right? They always, provide their knowledge, everything, so others can become masters. And that's what I want to do with all athletes, is give them the skills so they can succeed. And again, whether it be in their sports, maybe they don't end up making the pros someday, but maybe they become the CEO of a top Fortune 100 company in the world, right? Or they're working at a job that maybe doesn't make much money, but they love it. They have a great family. They're fulfilled. They're satisfied. They're happy. They're able to manage, right? A lot of those challenges, failures. Yeah. At the end of the day, that's what I want to be able to do, because, understanding just how many athletes make it to each level is approximately only about 8% of high school athletes each year make it to the college level. approximately only 1% of college athletes compete in the Division I levels or higher. And approximately only 1% of professional athletes are truly remembered as elite or great, right? Like Tom Brady, for example, right?
Yeah.
There's how many names? Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant. So to really reach that level, like in the grand scheme of things, it's very, very difficult. But if you can learn to use your mindset for you instead of against you and take the limits off, it will allow you to go a lot farther than, having that self-doubt come in where it's, oh, I can't do this. Oh, there's millions of other athletes out there. I'm never going to be able to get there. Right. Well, if you think that way, you're already limiting yourself. You're never going to go the distance. So providing them, those skill strategies to just manage that process, everything. And what I want to be able to do is, build that fire inside of you. So I believe we all have a fire inside of us. Right. And that's where the kind of motivation comes in, where some days you feel like you're on fire, you're on top of the world. Some days you kind of feel down. I want to be able to help you sustain that. All right. And help you develop your own internal motivation. So your own internal discipline and investment into yourself. So you have the ability to continue to put in the work. All right. You have the ability to continue to persist through any failure challenge you're kind of faced with along the way. And that's the biggest thing, I want to be able to integrate and help athletes with. And, whoever's listening, being able to help your son or daughter reach that next level of your game, yourself personally, whatever it may be able to develop the skills that you can do it on your own. Right. Once you have that mindset, the rest becomes easy. Now you can start with the physicality, right? You can get in the gym more often. You can create more output, but you got to have that foundation first for everything. So once we integrate that, once we have that, it becomes a lot easier along the way, and just, again, becoming more fulfilled and enjoying the process. And that's, I feel like, a big thing too, is, it's a process. All right. We're staring at the top of that mountain, right? Our goals are on the top of the mountain. How are we going to get there? All right, let's break it down. Let's make it a lot simpler. Let's not get overwhelmed. Okay. One step at a time, day by day. Let's celebrate those small wins. And along the way, hopefully you reach your highest potential. And I guess in saying that, I feel like you'll never reach your highest potential because it's unlimited, right? But the higher you can go,
never-ending journey.
Exactly, right? It's never ending. But the higher you can go, the more you can achieve, right? Get whatever you want in life. And that's what I love helping others achieve.
Beauty. I love it, man. That's so good. There's a ton of information there. If people want to reach out to you directly or the Grind Performance, where's the best place to find you and kind of reach out for more information?
Yeah, well, I guess some of the easiest places you could check out our social media. So Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, whatever it may be, at the Grind Performance. We also have a podcast you can check out. Had the opportunity to sit down with yourself, Trapper, the other week, which we had another great talk.
That's right.
So you can check out our podcast. Yeah, The Grind Road to Success on any platform, Spotify, Apple, YouTube as well. And then if you want to check out our website, which is simply thegrindperformance.com, we got some more information on there. And can reach out with any questions you have, and would love to answer them moving forward.
Awesome, man. Well, I appreciate your time today, giving us some insight into the mental game. It's been a lot of fun, and hopefully our viewers got some huge value from it. So Zach, awesome, man. Have a great rest of your day. Appreciate your time.
Awesome. Thanks, Trapper. Appreciate it.